For the past few months, I've been watching every single Best Picture Oscar-nominated film, so that by the time award season rolls around, I could actually offer an opinion. See, I'm a filmmaker and I love movies, but I don't know if I can consider myself a film buff to some of these guys in Bushwick. I'll be honest, there's a lot of movies that I've seen, but there's also a lot of movies I haven't. And while I do believe that that's okay, I think it's important to have your finger on the pulse of the industry to understand what's working right now and how we can put some of that back into our own films. So, as an exercise to myself and hopefully some inspiration to you, I have watched every single Best Picture Oscar-nominated film in 2026. I'll give you 10 quick reviews for every single film, and at the end of the video, I'll give you my picks for every category, and then we'll finally reveal my pick for Best Picture 2026. Also, there will be spoilers.
The Secret Agent is a quirky little film. From its odd visual cues to its vibrant coloring and eccentric cast, it's one of those films where it's hard to look away. And with a 2-hour and 41-minute runtime, some critics are calling it bloated, which I think is hilarious. But I kind of get where they're coming from. It's definitely a talky drama film, and it can feel slow moving at times, especially because the marketing of this film makes it seem like an action thriller, and even though we get bursts of that, it's more of a drama than anything else. There's also a lot of characters in this film, which can open the door for some confusion, maybe some chaos. The story's also told non-linearly, which I like, but I get that that's not everyone's jam. Point being, you have to pay attention to this film. If you look down at your phone for even a minute or two, you're gonna be lost. The film doesn't spoon feed you anything. They want you to pause, they want you to think, maybe at times they probably even want you to be confused. Story aside, technically speaking, I think it was awesome. It has some really nice camera work, and like I said, the coloring is beautiful. And no surprise here, but Wagner Moura has a really great performance in this film. He's truly the anchor. He helps keep it grounded, especially being that there is a larger cast. He was balanced, but he was also mysterious. This film is definitely an interesting one, and it's drawing up a lot of conversation, which I think is always a good sign. So if you've seen Meatball, then you've probably surmised, but I love a film with some interesting family dynamics, so I was super excited for Sentimental Value. And I do really think it was a great film, but there are a few things that stood out to me that I wanted to mention. Firstly, let's talk about the score. Now, it's not that I didn't like the score. I actually think the score itself was halfway decent. My problem more so lies with the way they transitioned us from each track into the next scene. It just honestly wasn't as smooth as I think it could have been. I love a hit of reverb as much as the next girl, but honestly, I think they might have done it one too many times. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, this is what I mean. You see what I did there? The writing on this film was really nice. It had some good bits of dialogue, but where this film really comes alive is through its characters. Sentimental Value is nominated for 9 awards, and 4 of those awards are for their actors. And this is a really small cast too, so well over half of the core cast is nominated for an Oscar. But there's one character that I'd hate not to give flowers to because it's impossible it would be nominated, and that's the house. It's super clear even from the first scene that the house in this film is a character in and of itself. In the opening scene, there's this moment where young Nora and young Agnes are playing and running around. They run out through the front door of the house, and it's like this push in on the girls as they're running out. And in that moment, it really feels like this house is watching over them. Like it's such an important part of the family. So when it's revealed that the house has a big crack in its foundation, immediately, at least I felt a little sad for the family, but for the house as well. It had like a real essence of life to it. I really liked Hamnet. Shakespeare, or really any art style from the Elizabethan era, can be an acquired taste, to say the least, but I really enjoyed this film, and I think it was a great introduction into the drama genre, specifically in this case, Shakespearean drama, if that's not normally the type of film that you'd be turning on. Going into the film, you do pretty much know the entire plot beforehand. It's right there in the logline, it's in the trailer. You know going in that the main pain point of the film is Hamnet's passing. I wondered if that might cut the tension at all, but no, not really. I found myself anticipating for most of the film when that would happen. Kind of like how I felt when I was watching Glee for the first time. That was crazy. That was a crazy thing to say. In some ways, it can make the drama feel much more intense knowing that this traumatic event is going to happen to this young and sweet family. I also feel like we got to take a moment to applaud the acting in this film. The cast is just insane. Jessie Buckley's carrying grief on her face in every frame of this film. And these kids, where did they find Hamnet? Where did they find him? It also got me really interested in Shakespeare's bloodline. Apparently, he has no direct living descendants, but his sister had children, and according to Google, still alive. So if you're out there and knowingly a living descendant of the Shakespeare family, and you're watching this video, let me know what you thought about the film. I'm curious. In Train Dreams, every frame is like a painting. The standout for me with this film was definitely the cinematography. It was very simple, but at the same time, kind of mesmerizing. Each shot had some really careful and intentional composition, so visually, I think they knocked it out the park. The story itself is a bit slow moving at times, but it works. Robert is pretty much waiting around for his entire life, holding on to this hope that his wife and his daughter will return. And honestly, I found myself holding on to that same hope. Imagine the film was a bit faster moving. We as an audience may feel pretty certain that there's not gonna be any reunion between these characters. But with those long, drawn out shots and overall slow pacing, you believe there's a chance. At least I believe there was a chance. I believe there was a chance up until he got on that airplane. Once he left the physical world below him and behind him, you know he's accepted his fate. And as the montage of his life begins to roll, we know it too. Overall, this film made me sadder than I thought it would. It's a depiction of a man whose life was riddled with hardships and in the end didn't receive a happy ending, he just received acceptance. But maybe that's one and the same. Firstly, I don't think I'm alone in saying that it's a shock Jesse Plemons didn't get a nomination for his performance in this film. His character was extremely compelling and continued to show his range as an actor, so it's just a disappointment. Emma Stone was also great. She obviously works with Yorgos a good bit, but it's for good reason. He clearly sees a lot of variety in her, and she's always able to deliver. Bugonia was no different. She plays a pretty convincing and unlikable corporate tycoon. At first, we definitely don't think she's an alien, and then we do, and then we don't, and then we do, and then we don't. Slowly, we start to see what Teddy's talking about, and it's starting to feel a little bit less insane. Come to find out, she was an alien. I look insane filming this, screaming about how she was an alien. I have this rigged to me. I think Yorgos' filmmaking style as a whole is very subjective. It's intentionally very uncomfortable and almost claustrophobic. And that's elevated even more so in this film, being that like 90% of it is shot in Teddy's basement. It had a great score, the camera work felt very creative and intentional, and the coloring was also really nice too. Frankenstein was shockingly good, and I'm not too into fantasy movies, so I don't know if I was fully prepared to like this film. I also really liked the way that it was structured. You had the prelude, Victor's perspective, and the creature's perspective, with both characters' stories leading us right up to the present moment, so there was no plot holes for the viewer. I'm really glad that Guillermo del Toro was the writer-director that got to make this adaptation of Frankenstein, because it was a story that he really lived, breathed, and loved. A movie franchise like Frankenstein has so many versions, so it's hard to make one that stands out from the rest, but I think that's exactly what this one does. I also really enjoyed watching Jacob Elordi in this film. The body movements of the creature have the potential to look really wonky if not done right. Even though he can't move that well, there's still a certain rhythm to it to make it look elegant and not completely disjointed, and I think that he nailed it, especially being that pretty much his only lines for the first half of the movie was his body language. That's actually a pretty hard thing to do. Okay, I gotta go. I might just have some beef with Apple TV productions. They're so pretty and the camera quality is so nice that it almost feels fake. Like there's not a human behind the camera. For a gritty race movie like F1, I just wish it felt a little bit more textured overall. Those racing sequences, so sick. Obviously. I was watching an interview with the editor, his name is Stephen Marioni, and he was saying that, I hope I pronounced that right, he was saying that they had 9 cameras rolling at once at one point, which is just so hard to fathom, having that many cameras rolling, capturing visuals and audio in moving vehicles going like 100+ miles per hour. What? And there's multiple race sequences in the film in the first place, so it's just a crazy concept to wrap my head around as an editor. In that same interview, Steven said that it was very important to them that the viewer didn't get race fatigue because there were going to be multiple sequences, and I think they did do a great job of ensuring that that didn't happen. Every time a race was happening, it was always a fun time to watch, I'm not gonna lie. Besides the actual production of the film, the story itself fell a little bit flat for me. There were just so many little moments like cliches. Do you know what I mean? And cheese isn't necessarily bad, but it was a little cheesy. Like Kate would say something sad about her past, but then walk off without really explaining much more, and then Sonny would be staring off into the distance dramatically. And listen, the last thing I want to do is sit here and trash on another film and act like I'm on some high horse. I don't have a film like this under my belt. And objectively, I do think the film was good. I just think for me personally, something was missing. And I can't quite put my finger on what it was, besides all the things I previously mentioned. This film has made for some pretty polarizing opinions. I found that for the most part, people either love it or they hate it. And the people that hate it all seem to share a similar gripe, And that gripe is with this man, that he didn't have to act very much to embody the role, that it feels like the same Timothy we've seen time and time again. And listen, I kind of get that. I'm not the biggest Timmy fan either, but you can't deny, whether you like him or not, he embodied the character. And maybe this is a hot take, but you don't have to like your protagonist. You don't even have to root for your protagonist. You just have to be interested in them. The opposite of hate is not love, it's indifference. So if you hated his performance, then maybe he did something right. In terms of some of the other characters, I think it's a great cast overall. I really enjoy how Josh Safdie mixes actors and non-actors. His style of filmmaking is very gritty and authentic, so that technique for casting really helps with that. It's basically the highest form of a personality hire, so that's pretty awesome. My main qualm with this film was just that I found it a bit hard to follow at times. Some of the scenes didn't feel like they really added towards the greater good. Like that whole storyline with the dog. It didn't feel like the film needed it to have legs, but it could have. Those are pretty much my negatives. The cinematography was great, the score was no doubt awesome. At first, I was a bit put off by the use of 80s songs in a 50s movie, but I actually think it's really inventive and creative. The composer, Daniel Lopatin, revealed that it basically represents Marty's delusions of grandeur and this unwavering belief that he has in himself and his future. From that perspective, it's actually pretty cool. And it also had some great production design. Fun little fact for you, this bowl is the same exact bowl featured in my short film Meatball. Our production designer, Diana, had some friends in the prop department of Marty Supreme, and they let her sift through some things to borrow after they wrapped. One Battle After Another was so damn good, was so thrilling. The film itself felt like one long montage, which from an editing perspective is super hard to pull off, like props. Overall, it was just paced perfectly. It also had this quality to it that made it feel like a film older than its time. A lot of movies today have this like shiny, fresh, out of the box feel to it, but not One Battle After Another. One Battle After Another felt like it's lived many lives before this. I was a bit disappointed not to see more of Teyana Taylor in the film. Of course, it made sense for her character and for the plot that she disappeared. She kind of had to, but I don't know. I missed her. You know what I mean? I missed her. Sean Penn also did a killer job. He was so believable. He was so creepy. Every time he was on the screen, I just had the majorest ick in the world. The way he walks, his nervous tics, that tragic haircut. The score was also a really important part of this film. In pair with the edit, it was constantly raising the stakes and elevating the story. Every second, every minute, every cut, every second, I meant to say, not every second. The score itself stretches across multiple genres too. Some tracks have an old school film noir feel to them. Some feel straight out of a Western. Others have more of a modern take, but they all feel like they work together and are part of the same film. I don't even know where to begin with this one. Sinners is just such a good movie. If you've seen it, then you know thematically that there's a lot of layers to it. Layers that make it so much more than just a horror film. To me, it felt like one of those films that make you want to become a filmmaker, one where you kind of just marvel at it. Like, how did Ryan Coogler pull this off? The obvious thought a lot of people have, and rightfully so, is how well Michael B. Jordan pulled off playing two different characters, especially because those characters do feel inherently very different. The camera work is beautiful, the score is entrancing, and not to mention it has one of the greatest scenes I think I've ever seen in a movie ever. Yes, that scene, you know what I'm talking about. That scene that takes us visually and auditorily through decades of Black culture in this insane wonder. Every inch of this film just feels so completely original, which in the world we live in today feels nearly impossible to do. And it's so good for the film industry in a time where Hollywood is just filled with remakes and sequels. Sinners is cinema. And I don't think I have to say much more than that, because the movie's about to start.
Okay, so after all of that and that long journey to the movie theaters, what is my best picture pick? Well, before we get into that, let's go through some of the other categories first. And finally, my pick for 2026 Academy Award Best Picture goes to Sinners. It is truly the best film of the year for so many reasons. It's unique, it's authentic, it's an original concept, an original idea about something relevant, but they have it take place in a vampire story. It's crazy. The camera work, the score, the acting, it is undoubtedly the most well-rounded film in the category. I just love it so much. It is definitely my favorite film of the year. I guess there's not much more to say. I would love to hear your thoughts on my picks, and I would love to hear your picks as well, so please comment them down below. Let me know. Thank you, and goodbye.